I'm sure many of you have read or seen Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. But did you know that Savannah was founded around a real garden? When I moved to Savannah from Toronto, I was excited to learn more about my new home and began exploring its hauntingly beautiful streets and squares, eventually ending up on the east side of the historic district, where I encountered, in a parking lot, in fact, of all places, I encountered this unassuming sign that marked this location as one of the most significant agricultural experiments in America. This was the site of the Trustees' Garden, which tells a rather different story of the South than the one we normally hear, one based not on radical inequality, but on an aspirational idea of a shared civic good. The idea and design of the Trustees' Garden originated in England and was built by the first colonists just 1 month after their arrival in 1733. It was based on early 17th century apothecary gardens in Oxford and London. Apothecary gardens were plots of land where Enlightenment scientists and natural philosophers tested different useful, edible, and medicinal plants collected from all over the world. The Trustees' Garden in Savannah was more than twice the size of these earlier English versions. It too set out to test and cultivate a wide variety of plants and herbs critical to human survival and flourishing in the area. But the Trustees' Garden in Savannah was more than just about growing a few fruits and vegetables for the first colonists. It was meant to be part of a larger blueprint for a better society. Savannah was founded as a place for the poor and unfortunate to start anew, a place of refuge for those on the brink of being committed to debtor's prison or fleeing persecution for their religious beliefs, and, most importantly, where the horrific institution of slavery was forbidden. As I stood in the parking lot of what was once the Trustees' Garden, I was surprised to learn that it wasn't designed around cotton, but around a different textile, one associated with supreme luxury and courtly decadence. It was designed around silk. Nearly half of the cuttings in the 10-acre lot were mulberry trees, whose leaves were meant to feed silkworms. And as part of the land grants, each new settler in the colony was required to plant mulberry trees in their individual gardens throughout the city and care for the silkworms, all in an attempt to build an export economy that would divert British reliance on foreign imports. But this vision for equality extended beyond the equal division of land or distribution of mulberry trees. The labor force for silk production was dependent as much on women as men. For nearly 40 years, the silk industry in Savannah offered women considerable employment opportunities where they supplied vital labor, skill, and knowledge. In fact, the Georgia trustees initially partially justified the initial ban of slavery because they knew that they could employ women in support of their important agricultural endeavor. And some of these women became experts and even entrepreneurs in the field. With its ban on slavery and emphasis on equal opportunity, Savannah began with an inspired ideal unlike anything imagined elsewhere in the 18th century. So, what happened? Well, it should come as no surprise that in this hot and humid climate, the mulberry trees proved difficult to cultivate, and so the silkworms were never produced in quite the hoped-for amounts. Well, weather has something to do with it, there were other factors as well. And so by the 1750s, the trustees' garden was abandoned, and by the 1770s, the silk industry was dead. But despite its failure, the trustees' garden yielded good things too. Peaches, for example, would never have become been known in the state of Georgia or become the fruit of the state of Georgia had they not found root in its soil. More importantly, they left us with a record of their aspiration for the common good. The first seal of the colony depicts a silkworm and a cocoon on a mulberry leaf with the Latin motto, non sibi sed aliis, not for oneself, but for others. This noble phrase actually comes from a much earlier text written more than 1,000 years before the founding of Savannah, which shows that their own selfless vision, which was to provide for those in need, to be a place of refuge or for those seeking refuge or opportunity, was itself inherited from the past, even if it was poorly executed. There's something, we are seeking something, our hope for a better future is present in our imperfect past. As the South continues to wrestle today with its ugly history, unraveling the story of silk offers a surprising twist. It's a mistake to think that the past is only a negative example to be overcome and not, in some cases, an inspiring legacy from which our own ideals emerge. As we wrestle today to try to realize the common good, we must more than ever and can and should look to the past for positive examples without reducing its complexities. I love Savannah and feel very fortunate to live in a place where the past can be an inspiration for improving the future. By moving here, I realized that the South isn't entirely what I thought it was. The South has multiple stories to tell. So the next time you see a historic marker, stop and take the time to read. You too might be surprised by what you learn.